Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting live from our Sanctum Sanctorum in Venice, California. I'm Krista.
I'm Kristen.
And we are the Sixth Sense Society. Welcome to another episode of the Sixth Sense Society. Thank you for viewing with us right now. We're really excited to have our guest tonight, Troy Griffin. Welcome.
Thank you.
And he is a full-time medium, clairvoyant, empath, TV personality, life coach, and psychic investigator. He's also a devout, lifelong Christian and the founder of North American Psychic Detectives. So we're going to be very excited to talk to him about all of this in a little while. But first, we're going to go over our cosmic weather for tonight. So early this morning at 1 a.m., the sun moved into Aquarius, and we are currently in a lunar eclipse. So it actually started around 8:41 p.m. and it's a supermoon as well, and it's in 0 Leo 52 minutes. It will be sort of exact at 9:16 p.m. This is Pacific Standard Time, so it's going to be different on the eastern coast. So I think it's kind of cool and interesting that we're doing this show during an eclipse. And then Thursday, we have some more Aquarius energy. On January 24th, Mercury moves into Aquarius at 4 a.m. I wanted to also correct a mistake I made on January 6th when I said Uranus. I didn't say this actually, that I meant to say Uranus moved directly into Aries, and I said Aries moved directly into Aries, which is a funny slip, and especially since Uranus is one of my ruling planets. So please, Uranus, forgive me. And then I wanted to mention a little bit before Kristen's going to add some things for the astrology is that the last time I talked about the United States astrological chart, and I'm going to mention a little bit today because the eclipse actually lands in the 8th house of the United States chart, and it's very close to, it's kind of between Mercury, which is in Cancer, late degrees of Cancer in the chart, and the North Node, which is around 7 degrees. So Mercury is about communication, and I'm kind of curious to see what's going to come out in the next little while about all of the, the stuff going on with the Mueller investigation and testimony and things because of that. And I also wanted to mention that I didn't say this last time, that having Mercury, it's also, by the way, retrograde. The United States has Mercury retrograde, and it's in the 8th house. And so I was thinking about tonight's show, how the 8th house is connected to death and psychicism and the occult. And I thought, well, the United States, we should be a leader in some of this. And I've always felt there's more going on behind the scenes with research, with the psychic things. And
Absolutely.
so I think, and then also just things about death in general, like is connected to the 8th house. So I thought it was kind of a fascinating thing. Did you want to add something to the astrology?
Well, this is a very potent, intense, very fated of fates. The fates of the fates of the fated of destiny of eclipses that we have here, and there's several things about it. First of all, we're in the middle of, there are 5 new and full moons in a row that are at 0 degrees, and so this is the 3rd. And so it is a collective reboot, rebirth, but you know what that means? That means we have to go through some death first, and that's not always comfortable, and it's a big time of letting go, and it's a time of reevaluation, as we've been through with all this retrograde row that's been going on, and this is this big kind of culmination. Now, from what I understand, this is a cycle that started in February 2017. So regardless of when you're getting a chance to listen to this on YouTube or as a podcast, you'll want to think about, okay, it's going into almost February of 2019, and what was going on in your life of February 2017. And that is a very big cycle that's actually kind of closing. And personally, I have felt a lot of intensity myself this particular week. I could feel it. And a lot of the aspects you might have noticed, there's a lot of conversations that have been taking place, a lot of important conversations, intimate conversations, necessary conversations, volatile conversations that might have started or might be happening, whether it's something that you want to initiate or something that might be initiated to you by someone else, whether it be, a lover, family, friend, co-worker. And I think the important thing is to try to feel your way through it as opposed to get in your head about it, and try to stay in the flow of it and not fight or resist, and let the things go that need to go, because this is a huge chance to make your dreams come true. Reset your goals. Maybe you want to redirect a goal you already had, or maybe you want to rebirth a goal from the past, or let something go. And so please, as with any of our new and full moons, light your candles, say your prayers, say your intentions, take your deep breaths, and we'll see you on the other side of it. So
I'm going to add too, it's in early degrees of Leo. And if you're feeling like, say, a lot of tension, boy, there's a weird little bug around here. Then what I noticed is, like, I was getting up in the middle of the night the last maybe 2 or 3 nights. And then I got back to some of my creative works that I had left behind. And I had probably started them a couple years ago. And I slept better. So Leo is a very creative energy. And I want to add that I agree with the rebirth idea, because it's also the birch moon in the Celtic tradition. But I also agree, I think that Leo is about celebration and joy, and it's such a heart energy. So I totally agree with you, like, to feel your way through this, because it's about the heart more. And, Leo at its best is a warm and caring and exuberant energy. But watch your pride a little bit and the ego, because that is the shadow side of the Leo. So any of this, I think, could fit with the actual eclipse. And remember, the eclipses are powerful, but they're, like this one, it's like a really super full moon. So I think sometimes people get a little bit carried away on the internet.
Full moon madness.
Yeah, have you noticed it's like every
Oh
single
my God.
time, And
Yeah.
and now it might be important for you because it triggers something in your chart, like where it lands in the United States chart. I think it's going to reveal some of the destiny of the United States. So I'm going to keep my eyes open and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. There might be signs of things to come, and the direction. So I think that's a good coverage of our astrology. Michael, did you have some things you wanted to talk about the next shows?
Yeah, we've got some really great shows coming up, guys. And first of all, I'm super excited to have Troy here tonight. I think it's going to be an awesome show, and I think it's a fascinating topic. And so this I'm really looking forward to. Next week, we have Adela Levine back on. We're going to talk about Rudolf Steiner, and I think a lot of people find him fascinating. Following Sunday, we're going to do a show on tarot. And of course, Kristen and I all significantly work with tarot and have for many, many years. And we're going to talk about our thoughts on it and maybe challenge some existing ideas about some of the cards and so forth. So if you guys are into tarot, definitely don't want to miss that. In February, we have some really great shows coming up. We have Brad Cronin coming on, the astrologer, just before Valentine's Day, and we're going to do a show on relationships. And of course, as readers, let's just say we've gotten a lot of questions over the years about relationships. So we'll share some of our insight and wisdom about finding true love and holding on to true love and all that good stuff. So that'll be our Valentine show. After that, we have Jim McGrath back, and his Mary Magdalene show is just one of our biggest hits. People loved it, and he's going to be awesome. He's going to do a show on the symbolism and history of the Holy Trinity and what it all means and where it comes from, and I think that's going to be exciting. And of course, the Trinity is such a big part of many, many spiritual paths, so please tune in for that one. And then at the end of the month of February, we have Krista's dad, George Swimmer, on, who's going to talk about Edgar Cayce and his relevancy to our time in history at this point and so forth. And so get all information on that on the website. And I think starting off March, we talked about doing a show on magical wars. And maybe some of us have been in magical wars, and we'll talk about some of the famous magical wars in history. And that may be a little controversial, but I think it's going to be an awesome topic, and hopefully we'll have a lot of fun with that too. So that's kind of what we have coming up. And tonight, again, as it was mentioned, we're doing a show on Troy's work with cold cases. And what some of our listeners may not realize is I feel like a Time Lord, like if you watch Doctor Who, because I've had probably 30 different lives in this lifetime, and I keep becoming a different person. And so one of my lifetimes when I was in my teens, I just gotten out of the Navy, believe it or not. And I thought it would be fun to try being a policeman for a while. So I got a job with a little town police department in Nova Scotia at Annapolis Royal. So I got to spend a summer doing high-speed chases and chasing drunks with pool cues up stairwells and all that good stuff. And so it's always fascinated me. I decided it wasn't for me. It was broke my heart to give someone a parking ticket. And so the emotional stuff that you get with that, which I'd like to ask Troy about too, because there's so much emotional stuff that comes with that job. And it was just a little bit much for me, so I went on to do other things in life. But I've always had respect for what they go through and their day-to-day, and it's quite an undertaking, to be a policeman, a good one. And of course, we have some bad ones, too, that shouldn't have a gun and a badge, but we have some amazing people that really do care about their communities, and they really do want to help. And so I think we'll look forward to that. But I'm going to kick it back to you guys, and I'm sure I'll jump in with some questions and have a great show, and just have a lot of fun with it. So here we go.
Thanks. And one clarification, Brad is still tentative. So we're booking him in, but we're going to get it confirmed well ahead. So I just wanted to add that in case Brad is listening. I don't put any pressure on him.
Go to Amazon.com. Brad is an amazing writer. He has 16 books on astrology, or maybe 18. I've lost count. Brilliant writer. Love Amongst the Stars. Big hit. But he has just so many books on astrology. Yeah. So, and he has, for your love life, individual thick books on Capricorn and all your matches, and just on Taurus and all your matches, and a book on all about Saturn. And I just really want to give a shout out because I love you, Brad, the best astrologer and a wonderful writer. Go on Amazon and Cronen, Kronen, Brad.
And we are not paid to endorse this.
No, not at all. We just love him.
We're just fans. All right. So great. Well, welcome again.
Thank you. I saw your questions there, and I'm a little nervous now.
Well, these are just ideas.
Oh, okay.
I got to have
sweating
something
over here. Okay.
Well, why don't you start with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to this work?
Okay. So, as you mentioned, I am a medium, clairvoyant. I'm Christian-based, so I've been intuitive. I've known it since 6th grade when, things that are going to happen and people say what they are, but I kept it to myself. So really for me, I didn't come out of the psychic closet till I was 40, and it was by fluke. So what happened is I was at a friend's gift shop, purchasing a card for my wife, and she reads cards, and one of her friends came in, and her name was Diane, and Cindy's the store owner, and she said, "This is Troy, he's a friend of mine." And Diane asked me if I was a psychic. And I've never used that word in my life before that. Not even intuitive. And for some reason, it just came out, yes.
Oh, it was your time.
Yeah, so she said, "I'm working on a case for the Bronx Police Department on a missing woman." And I went and proceeded to say, well, she's not missing. She's deceased. She was hit with a pipe. She was in the crawl space of her boyfriend's house. And just went on with this little dissertation. And she was like dumbfounded. And I thought, well, that was really interesting. What the hell just happened to me? So I went back and I told my wife, I go, wow, this weird thing happened to me. I just don't know. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know where I am. So about 3 weeks later, the shop owner called me up, Cindy, and she said, "I have to tell you that you blew this case out of the water."
Wow.
And Diane made the mistake of telling the Bronx Police Department that the information came from you. Now she won't speak with you because they kind of cut her out. So I didn't do it. I honestly, it was honest. And I said, well, that's interesting.
Because you had no desire to work cold cases or be a professional psychic. And
never came across my mind. Never. Yeah. Not even a clue. So I said, well, that's interesting. So I went about doing my stuff. And about 2 weeks later, in a dream, a vision, I had a gal from North Carolina. And I went online, and she was missing, and I was about 98% accurate on that case, a little over 98 on the other case. So I spent a month doing soul searching about, what am I supposed to do? Right. Am I supposed to do this publicly? what we all go through. What's family going to think? What's friends going to think? What's society going to say about me?
Sure.
And so after about 30 days of soul searching and prayer for me, I just said, if this is the calling I'm supposed to do, then I'm in. And so that started me 13 years ago, almost 14 years ago. And I've been doing it ever since.
Feels very angelic to me, like, and I can talk this way with you, but like God knew that you wouldn't just do it for a lot of reasons, and it was sort of like, yeah, I need you on earth doing this for me, and it's okay.
Right.
So it's beautiful.
It's what I learned. It's okay. And I think the other thing that I learned is that I don't really care what people think or said about what I do.
Right.
I'm personally not a big word of the psychic because we're very intuitive, but psychic is what public knows. So
right.
It's
a
an interesting
flashier
thing
word.
because I went through that and then I wanted to reclaim it because of the shame around it. So I've gone through the whole cycle now. I said,
Right.
because there's especially studies in Europe, they actually do blind studies
Yes.
with proving that they've even found the place in the brain where the psychicism is. And I said, that made me feel more confident. I said, why can't we just embrace it in the right way? Like
You're
really, scientifically see
Right.
that it's a trait of the human being. And
That's right.
and just because, let's say, another person gets psychic, maybe they'll use it because they're a doctor. Like I do know someone that is really intuitive as a doctor, and she told me one time she saved a man's life because she listened to her inner voice, and
Yep.
it said that he was going to have a heart attack, no symptoms, no tests. She made him, and he would have died. And she said, I always listen to that voice and said, boy, I hope she's my
Yes.
doctor
Yeah,
someday.
absolutely.
So, I mean, it's useful for all careers, the psychicism part,
Right.
So I think people think, oh, psychics are for psychics. And no, it's for everybody.
Well, we all have this ability.
Yes, we
It's
do.
just
Yeah.
a matter of if you, like some people just have it more powerfully naturally, like you do. Other people work it. Like I know people that are mediums that spent years kind of working it and got to be but like on their own naturally, they wouldn't have been like, and yes, and the woman was found in the garage,
yeah.
But some people just don't have, they just use it lightly, like
Yeah.
like your friend, the doctor. But it's really, we have to stop thinking of it as this sort of special thing.
That's right.
Right.
Well, it's a condensation of the name, which the public made
Yes.
as a taboo. But, call me whatever you want. I've been called worse. So I'm fine to say that I'm a psychic.
Yeah.
I
Well, I think it's interesting. I do feel, in a way, you had a bit of a special destiny because that first experience being so specific is unusual. Like, I've not really heard that before. I've heard a couple people say that they knew someone was going to die, but a lot of people have that with their relatives. So that's
Right.
fairly common.
Right.
But to have that specific and to have walked into that shop where that was going on, like in terms of synchronicity, because I really believe
everything's meant to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So, can you talk about what it was like what it is like being a devout Christian with this, because I know Casey had trouble with some of his reconciling that initially, then he eventually did.
Well, for me, because it came naturally to me, and I do believe, I'm very spiritual. Being a psychic, I'm very spiritual. Christian is my base. Because it came to me naturally, and I don't really dabble on the dark side, where'd it come from? So for me personally, before I read or do cases, I pray. I pray for guidance and wisdom. So for me, that's my Christianity, that I come back and I pray, for protection, everything else does. But so for me, it works well for me because it almost keeps me grounded. Even though I'm very spiritual, it gives me that base to draw from, especially when I walk into a lot of evil, which happens in my field a lot. It's almost like my base that I can go to
Right.
and
Yeah.
have strength. So for me, that's how they work well together.
Michael, did you have a question?
Yeah, a couple things actually. Of course, obviously, we're going to talk about some of the specifics of how he goes about doing his thing. But one of the questions I had for Troy, obviously, when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, first of all, I'm sure you deal with a lot of skepticism on the part, as you said, of some of the police and so forth. And I'm sure, much like any other part of society, some of them are probably skeptics, some are believers, some are just about everything. But I was kind of curious. I got two questions, actually. One is a little bit about kind of the attitude that you do find towards someone doing your kind of work in terms of law enforcement. Are they interested? Are they open to it? Are they very difficult to persuade that this is something that maybe would benefit them? And then the other question I really had for Troy is, of course, and we're touching on it already a little bit, is how do you handle the emotional part of this? Because clearly you're going to be looking at things, as you said, that are not the most pleasant things, and sometimes you'll carry that stuff with you. And certainly, as my little tiny career in police work, you really do carry that stuff with you a little bit. Some of the things that you see, and it's really hard to. Obviously, you go to sleep at night; those images are still going to be in your head, So I was wondering how, from your point of view, in terms of staying emotionally healthy, that you're able to process those things and not have them sort of accumulate. So
Sure.
those are kind of my questions.
All right. So your first question about how law enforcement views me is it's really 50-50. Some do, some don't. When you're done with some, they are believers after that. I get reached out by a lot of law enforcement, but the first thing I have to emphasize is I don't solve cases. I'm not the police. So really what I'm hired to do, and I do a lot of validation and remote viewing. So some will come in skeptic, but then by the time we go through what I go through, they are surprised. I've worked on over 100 cases in the last decade. There's ones that reach out to me. I get quite a few law enforcement, government officials that reach out to me. I think everybody knows that government does use psychics.
Yes.
They do. They make you sign really tough disclosures, non-disclosures, but it is what it is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's taboo.
Ah.
The problem that you get with the police departments, more than the FBI, is that the police departments, it's the ego.
Ah.
And what if a psychic solves the crime, but the detective
Right.
doesn't? What is the community going to think about the detective?
Right.
And also, how will the detective react? Because technically, he wants to solve the case and take
Right.
the credit for it because that's his career.
It's his little feather in his cap.
Yes.
So I'm okay with it.
You're like a ghostwriter.
Yeah, exactly. I do a lot of work pro bono. Most of my work is done pro bono, and being with my Christian belief, it's my way of tithing or giving back. So I work with a lot of families, and I don't charge them because they've been through the ringer financially, emotionally. But I don't take a case unless I can connect through the victim's eyes.
Huh.
So a
Interesting.
picture, if they're missing a photo. Or...
Right, so just send me the missing person's flyer and the last known location, and then if I can connect through their eyes through remote viewing, then I'll help. But if I can't, I'm not going to say I can't because I bring no false information.
Right.
And that's my belief. Even for the police department, I turn a lot down because I just can't connect. And I'm not going to bring in any false information to make somebody feel good.
Right. Right.
So that's the first part. Your other question about how I deal with it is that I've had to learn to put it as a business. And so when I'm done with the reading or I'm done with the case today, I close the file folder. And I've always said when I close my office door, I'm done. So I treat it as a business, is what I have to do. When you talk about things coming to me at night, I'm the first one to tell you I have to take sleeping meds because I don't sleep at night. So for my emotional and physical health, I have to take sleeping pills at night so that I block all of that out. If I get visions or things that come to me, before 8, 9 o'clock at night, if I feel like they're important, I will text myself a message for the next day. Or if I'm really tired, I'll be like, hey, you got to come back tomorrow because I'm not doing it. And if you don't come back tomorrow, then it's obviously not that important. So I just treat mine like a business. The thing that gives me peace is that being readers, which we are, we know where most individuals are. And we know that they're whole again. And so that brings me comfort. And that comfort also allows me to speak to the family.
Right.
To bring them some comfort.
Right.
So it's a matter of we talk about where this person is, but now it's time to see if we can't provide justice for the action.
Yeah, I really thank you for your work. We watch a lot of detective shows, especially, and the ones we watch, the detectives, they really are so dedicated. And one of them says he never sleeps. And the ones that really care and work hard, I wonder sometimes if some of them that are very good have some intuitive instincts. They just
Oh,
don't.
absolutely.
Yeah, because some of them do seem amazingly good at it, and so I could see where that would be very difficult, and you would, sleeping, because everything opens up when you sleep, even if you don't want to.
Well, it's like a lot of things. We get emotionally attached.
Yeah.
I've had a case that I've been emotionally attached, and I saw you have their name on your piece of paper, and there's two of them, and I'm still emotionally attached.
Which ones were they?
And the Kelsey Schelling
Yes, that one.
and Joey LaBute Jr. You got them both there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw her picture. I could see had a beautiful soul.
She
And-
did.
Yeah.
And that one, it's a long story, but the guy that killed her boyfriend is in jail, and with his mother, who was part of it. And,
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
hmm
Oh wow.
And Joey's the one that hit me the hardest. So Joey is a 26-year-old male. I don't know if you saw a picture of him, but when you see his eyes, he shouldn't have died. So 26-year-old male, just got out of college a year ago, working as a financial advisor for JB Morgan Chase. Didn't like to go to the bars. He was a gay male. Didn't like to go to the bars, but his cousin's husband decided to come out, so they went to a bar, and his cousin talked him into going to this bar. 11:30, he bought him and his cousin a drink of vodka cranberry. His ex-boyfriend worked behind the bar. And about midnight, he went to the restroom, and she was texting him saying, "I'm sick. This drink made me sick. I've got to go." We last see Joey walking out of the restaurant, and then we don't see Joey again until 3 weeks later when he is found in a river, dead. The autopsy came back and said no water in the lungs. And so they listed as undetermined so that it's an open case. And so Joey hit me not only connecting through his eyes and the remote viewing, but he has two of the most amazing aunts that I've ever met. I mean, they are so dedicated to Joey. And here's the aunts. We all wish we had this type of aunt, right? Joey's 25, 24, living out on his own. Aunts would come by, open the fridge, no food, they go shopping. He's laundry needs to be done, do your line side here too. It's like, wow, can I have an aunt like that? Two of them, and so they were very close.
Yes.
And so they're the ones that contact me about the case, and they've just been amazing. And so through their support of me, it's been great, although it's led to a serial killer case with other men. They just have been wonderful.
So his case is connected to the serial killer case?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's pretty tough. Does that make you nervous, like working on a serial killer case, or is it just another case in a sense that, I mean, archetypally they're just so powerfully creepy, are serial killers. I mean, how can you not feel that way?
So the thing that you got to remember, like my serial killer case now, I'm completely safe.
Right.
Because he wants attention from me. Because it's across state lines, he's not getting attention from the police departments. And so he wants attention from me. The hardest thing that's been harder on this case is he brought a case to me when I lived in Denver. And I haven't talked to him for about 9 months. So, through the serial killer cases I work on, once I connect to the victims, so in this particular case, I knew what I was looking in my vision, and I went back to Ohio for a 1-year anniversary, and he came up to my left side and told me who he was. And then the detective immediately came up to my right side and said, "Let's go talk." So I went with the detective. So where I'm going with this is a lot of times I like to get in the mind of serial killers. Not as far as the way they kill, but how they think. So my particular serial killer, this one, I've got two of them. This one, what they try to do, this guy's very intelligent, probably Asperger's. And so he tries to contact me to see if I have information.
Interesting.
I've been asked several times if I have the autopsy report of the toxicology as it's laying in front of me as we're speaking, and
How interesting.
no.
So do you mean by contact through
Telepathy?
No, on
or
the
really
phone.
on the phone?
On the phone.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
He calls me, yeah.
Wow.
So it goes through my office, so that doesn't bother me. But in this particular case, my victim that I started with, Joey, was dead before he went into the water, and we think GHB was used, which is an old date rape drug.
Oh,
Yes.
Where you lose everything. So speaking to this gentleman on the phone, he told me that he has a degree in chemistry. but he works as a nurse now.
Huh.
So two things. So at the end of the conversation, again, you watch what you say. So at the end of the conversation, I said, well, we think Joey was drugged with GHB, which his boyfriend worked behind the bar. I background checked this guy. He lived in the neighborhood for about 6 years. Says he doesn't know anything about the neighborhood. So at the end, I said, I think GHB was used with Joey. And he said, I don't know what that chemical breakdown is. Didn't you just tell me that you were a chemist? So then, the second call I get from him a few weeks later, you guys hear this a lot. I wanted to let you know that I'm a psychic too. How many times have you heard that? Over and over and over again. So in my business, especially in the investigation, it's like, okay, where are we going with this one? So he said he had a dream, and in his dream, he knew where they put Joey in the river, and he knew what the currents were, the strength of the currents. But he nailed it. He nailed it. So as we progress, I have 5 other boys now. There's a 6th one now that have the same coming out of gay bars, not being shown for 3 or 4 weeks, showing up in rivers.
Same MO.
Same MO, but I have it in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I don't know where my new one came from. I talked to him. And then I didn't speak to him for about 9 months. And so when I lived in Denver, you never heard of anybody going to the river. Plus, there are walks. If you're drunk, you're not going to be walking. And so I had a boy that is a nurse, just graduated nursing school, was going to start a new job the next day. Went missing, showed up in the river, same MO.
Wow.
So I think because I didn't talk to him, he brought the case to me.
Right.
Yes.
To get that attention. So the problem he's having is I'm not getting him that attention either. And that drives them crazy.
Right.
But he won't hurt me because he wants me to bring up more information because he feels like, he feels like he's above what's going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It does remind me of Michael and I are big fans of the show Millennium. Did you ever see that show? It was in the 90s. The main character. It's about this group of, I don't want to call them psychics, but they're kind of brought together to work together on crimes. Though initially it's just this one fellow, Frank Black, and played by Lance Hendrickson, and he could get into the serial killer's mind.
Yeah.
Like that was what
Yeah.
he would do, literally. Really interesting character. Like I loved his character. And the show is really fascinating. The first 2 seasons, then it kind of fell over.
Right.
And then there was a woman that somehow worked with angels, but it was really different it wasn't really fun. She was really nervous and had this huge anxiety. She was always smoking, and it was just something she could do that she didn't, want in a sense, but she worked somehow with the angels, I remember. And it's very dark. It was very intense and good show. But it's similar when you were saying he would get right into the mind of the killer. That's how he caught them.
And it may sound wrong, but I like it.
No,
I like it.
It is. But you're attracted to it for very, very good reasons.
Right.
Could you talk a little bit about remote viewing for some people that don't quite understand what that is?
Good
Sure.
idea.
And I just want to back up. So what makes me different as an investigator is I actually go on location. And this is going to sound morbid, but I'll bring a rake, I'll bring a shovel, I'll dig, I go into bushes, I go into ravines, I go into many different things. Because for me, I have to find closure. And so my closure is knowing I have done everything that I could do, even on site,
Right.
for the case.
Wow, no, I think that's great.
So that's what makes me a little bit different. So, if you see me out there and coming out of the sewer, that's normal for
Sort of
me.
like Erin Brockovich when she went down to get the frog, and she's with the frog and the thing.
That's
It's like
exactly right.
But it was like, because it's passionate.
Right.
And I think it is interesting what you're saying about closure.
Yeah, so I have to. So remote viewing for me. So I connect through the victim's eyes, and I get pictures, places, things, names. So really, what I do is, I'll give you. Are we going? How graphic are we going here?
We don't have any experience.
R-rated?
I'm all right.
Okay, so here's a good remote viewing case besides Joey. I was called from a police chief in Indiana, and 18-year-old cold case. we went through the things, validated a lot of stuff, and I said to him, I said, why am I seeing a concrete wall, and why am I seeing a tree trimming business? So the reason he contacted me is he's a new chief of police, but they were pulling out a concrete slab in his suspect's sister's house, where they saw a tooth and potential remains. So I said, well, tell me about the tree trimming business. And her boyfriend, who is the suspect, has a tree trimming business.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And so it went through, there's a movie called Fargo. I've never seen
yes.
it.
Oh, I've heard it, but I haven't seen it either.
But it's
Yeah.
the same wood chipper type scene.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Where
Okay.
she went through the wood chipper and then they poured her in concrete.
Wow.
Well, this particular, so I see all this. And then, so the other thing that comes again is just intuition leads me. So I knew that this guy couldn't pour concrete. He's a trimmer. He's not that smart. So, another conversation when I talked to the detective, I said, why do I have jewelry? And he said, well, she used to wear a lot of turquoise jewelry, and we know the suspect's sister was wearing a necklace soon after she went missing of this girl's. And I said, no, there's something else between there. I said, I'm going to let you know. So I went and Googled, and I found, so her boyfriend at the time was suspended as a detective for the police department because he was taking the confiscated jewelry items
Wow.
and selling it.
Oh.
So I went online and found a pawn shop owner that was busted for selling stolen jewelry. My investigation led me to where they went to high school. He owns a construction company.
Ah.
The concrete.
Yeah.
The concrete.
Right.
So now I connect the two perpetrators, and that gives us more of an investigative case to go through and connect the dots. That's what my job is.
Right. So then you give this information to the police. They validate it by saying, "Oh yeah, that makes complete sense."
Right, so they
And
pulled
then
him in. They pulled in the other one and went
Yes.
through and they add things and so that's what I do through remote viewing is I just see things. I see the jewelry that was worn. I saw it worn on the victim. I saw the house where the concrete was. Tree trimming business. I just have a
That's very
truck.
specific. Yeah.
So I remote view around the area, and then I just take what I remote view and let my intuition guide me the rest of the way.
And I know I'm jumping ahead a little, but you founded a group called North American Psychic Detectives. So is this something you're still trying to work on in terms of developing? And I saw at one point you were trying to do a nonprofit.
Sure. So what North American Psychic Detectives was is I wanted to gather other intuitives like me to do this work, but 99% of the people can't because of the emotional feelings and stuff. So really what my group is now is I have a research assistant and I have a criminologist. And so, when I have this idea or, that's something that comes to me, I will either give it to the research person to see what they can find. Really, most of her job is finding me contact information for other people I want to talk to.
Right.
And then my criminologist will, again, this is what I have here, here, and here. How do we connect this? So that's my team of what we do under that particular group. So we do it pro bono for families. I do get paid for consulting with police departments and government agencies. But so that's kind of what North American Psychic Detectives are. They're both intuitive, but they specialize in that particular arenas.
That's so interesting that people don't want to do it for the emotional aspects. I wish I could do that so that I could help you.
Yeah.
Well, I
But
have a
yeah.
story about that. When I was first doing psychic things, and I came to this work reluctantly.
Yeah.
And only recently have I declared myself a metaphysical person inside. Like, okay, this is me,
Right.
But I was very idealistic, and in the very, very beginning, I thought, I watched a lot of shows, and my heart goes out to the victims, and I said, I wish I could do this. And I really, at the moment, felt it. So I had this dream. And in a dream, it was like it was somewhere in California, Northern California, and it felt like a real visitation. And I could see this man was going to kill this young woman, but I couldn't see who it was. And I woke up and I said, Michael, there's going to be this young woman with brown hair found soon. But I didn't know anything else. And within a week, it was on the news.
And where was she?
I can't remember now. I don't remember the details of where it was, but it was like a serious case. And it was so creepy, the dream. Like, it did freak me out. And I said, I can't do this. I said, and also at the time, I didn't think to ask, well, can I get more information? Because I thought, well, this isn't helping. I don't have anything to help.
Right.
I knew it was coming, but I said I wanted to help. And then I didn't think maybe if I worked harder, I could find a way to help. But it was the feeling in the dream that was unlike anything. Because I've had a lot of nightmares, and I can tell a nightmare from this was a very real
Right.
experience. And what you were saying, yes, I think that maybe you are wired this way.
Yes.
And maybe you can become more wired. Michael learned to look at dead bodies by working in a mortuary, and he said you get used to it.
Right. That's what you get used to.
But I would say that probably some people, like, you're interested in the mind, that is a passion, and I think we should always follow our passions wherever they lead, even if it leads to doing something you didn't know you'd do as a medium.
No.
So
Let me ask you this. The dream that you had, if I say something called grapevine, what does that mean to you?
nothing. I except that I felt a little nervous. And
Because I had a case that, like you're talking about, in California, Northern, in the section of I-5, they call the grapevine.
I probably wrote it. I wrote everything down in my journals, and thank God, because my memory is not the greatest.
Yeah, mine either.
And because I'll go back and say, thank God I wrote that down. But I'll check and see. But that it did feel a little like I felt a little anxious when you said that. So.
But remember, as intuitives, when we have these things, it's not for us to solve them. It's
Right.
us to try to validate. So a lot of police department contact me. When it's an active investigation, I cannot see what's in the reports. But I can validate, which opens them up for more information. So I do a lot of validation, and really what they tell me it does for them is it assures them they're going down the right path.
Right.
Sure, and they have limited resources, and they're trying to get it done in a certain time. Especially if there's a killing going on, they want to catch them, right?
Right.
But I'm one of these people. It's weird. Have you ever seen this show? We watched a lot of ghost hunting shows, and what is it? The Ghost Brothers, and that these like 3 African American guys that go and do the ghost hunting, and they're scared half the time when something happens, and that's me. I'm like,
I
yes,
like that.
finally. He's like,
Yes.
he'll like shriek and run out,
Yeah.
and he's really shrieking, right? And I said, that's me.
Yeah,
So
really.
I'm still kind of jumpy about some, even though I'm interested too, but I'm just kind of jumpy about it. So you have any other questions, Michael? Are you good?
Am I good? I
Just want to
I'm
include
enjoying
you.
the show. Sure. I think it's fascinating. How many cases that you've worked? You've said you've been doing this about a decade, I think. Do you have any idea how many cases have been solved? Because you said you'd worked on how many have you worked on? How many have they actually caught the killers?
I have
or
worked on
criminals?
over 100 cases, and not to cut you off, but that's always a good question I get, is what is my success rate? And for me, I can't tell you. And the reason that I can't tell you is because my success rate is dependent on a criminal conviction. And since the judicial system is so long, I don't have time to follow all the cases. The one I mentioned to you, the Kelsey Shelling, I did follow that case because she touched my heart, and her mom really got to me too. I'll tell you how I came to her. But so I don't really follow my cases after I close my file. I just have other cases that go on, and I just can't follow the judicial system forever.
Yeah.
And they do get off, some do, some, and so for me, I can't really tell you what the success rate is. Can I say that I have solved crimes? Yes. But to the police department, no. So that's, to me, until it's completely done and through the court system's conviction, then it's not, I don't know. It's hard for me.
And I guess the other thing, we talked about this, or maybe we didn't. How does it come about? Do you sort of see a case and reach out to the police department? Do they somehow find out about you? Does the family the one that sort of hears about you and connects with you? But how do most of these cases actually come to you?
So it's all of the above. As far as families, I probably get 8 to 12 requests a week of people looking for help.
Wow.
The police department's probably 2-3 inquiries a month. FBI comes around maybe every quarter to 6 months. I'm the last resort. So they come to me when there is no more clues or leads, and that's when they come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, it's just validating what they have and bringing in new people. So it just really depends. It just really depends. Again, if I can't connect with the victim, then I can't help. And so I turn down, I hate to say this, probably 95% of everything that comes my way.
I wonder if there were more people like you, if it would become way more common practice. Because as we've talked about it, it's obvious the government and the police use psychics all the time, and it's just kind of kept hidden. But I wonder if there were more people that had the gift for it and also had not only the gift, but like the wire, they're wired to do it. If it would be, because if you're saying you turn down about 95% because you're not connecting with 95%, which is so full of integrity. It just would be interesting to me what it would be like if there were more people that could do it. Would it somehow become more, I don't want to use the word taboo, but if it would become more common, it wouldn't become such a big deal.
Right.
And people would be more comfortable. The police would be like, yeah, we've lost some leads. Let's call one of our psychics that we have and see what they can come up with, as opposed to it being this thing that's sort of like, well, there's no other leads and, we don't want to talk about it. And, God forbid the detective not get,
right.
the detective, the psychic helped me and he was the one. And it would be very interesting because it's part of what we're talking
Well,
about with not having it be more integrated into society.
I think it's going to happen because of science, oddly. I was watching,
Yes.
actually, it was a commercial on YouTube that was really fascinating about the brain and brain injuries. And, they now a person can move things with their mind through a robot hand or something.
Right.
There's a lot more. One of the things that's fascinating is probably a lot more going in science. It just doesn't get out enough because scientists are often busy doing the research. And
Right.
and I did learn this when I was in science. My oceanography teacher said that they often aren't good at communicating what they.
That's
so
right.
you got this like really heady stuff, and you need people to bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that science might help oddly enough because there's some
Yes.
miracles happening with science now that's blowing everyone away.
Yes.
And every time I go in there, I'm like, "What?" And the guy he was paralyzed, and he said, "I wish I could jump up with joy. This is the coolest thing ever." And he says, "It's so easy." When he did it, it was so easy. He said, and I said, "That's incredible."
I think science and
You
magic
know?
and magic and science
Yeah.
are merging
Yeah.
more and more
So-
every day, and I think as we get into 2020 and beyond,
Yeah.
we're going to be seeing changes.
Yeah.
The go to your question about more people doing it. There's a lot of people that, I'll be nice and say, do what I do.
Right.
The difference is that they're the armchair. Let me sit at my table and tell you X, Y, and Z.
Right.
You get in the
That's
you
okay.
Trenches.
you actually could be like a detective almost,
Right.
except you're not.
Right, so that's
You do the
okay if you want to sit
investigation.
behind. As you said, the reason they sit behind the phone is they're scared. You're talking murder. You're talking about people that, and they're scared. And let's face it, most psychics are women. And so they don't want to come out.
The idea of getting a phone,
That's
when
a
you
good
said
point.
phone call from the serial killer, that surprised me when you said.
Yeah.
I said, well, it must be telepathy or something. I was like, you
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say it might freak me out. You really do have to, and you just sit here and you're like, yeah, he called me. I'm safe. It's all good. You really do kind of have to, I don't know, have the stomach for it. The kind of, because I think a lot of, are they going to find me? Are they going to come murder me?
Right.
You're like, no, he needs me. You have a really great understanding of it.
I've only had one case. So the case that the serial killer brought to me in Denver, I went and did a physical investigation with one of my team members, and somebody did follow us. And that's about the only time that it scared me. But I'm prepared, on my body.
Okay.
And so
That
that's
makes sense.
Yeah.
That's about the only one that scared me. And it's just because following us and stopping behind us when we stop, things like that.
That's pretty scary in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you learn how to lose people. You learn a lot of things and how to lose people and move on. And, but the thing is, by the guy communicating with me, example, go back to the serial killer guy. So I have 2 boys in Pittsburgh, one in Ohio. He lives in Ohio. He's a nurse. But I have
That's just scary to me. He's a nurse.
he's a nurse. But
It's
I think
just-
he's a traveling nurse. And that's how I think he got to Denver.
Right.
Right.
And so the case there is that I forgot what I was saying. Lost my train of thought there.
You said you wanted to go back to the case, and there were 2 other boys that were lost. Going back to the concept of being followed.
There you go. It's live. I
Oh.
lost my train of thought. It's live.
There you
Oh
go.
no.
The thing about him communicating with me is I am able to track him. I know where it's going. So,
Right.
for instance, serial killers make mistakes. This guy made the mistake of giving me too much information, but when I saw the boys missing in Pittsburgh, my research assistant found him at the gay bar in the same bar that my suspects were in.
Ah.
So it's a 3-hour drive from Ohio. So he made the mistake of getting his photo taken with somebody else and it's on the bar's website.
Oh wow.
So see, you have to keep them, and they do make mistakes. So
Right.
now I can put them here and here.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's really what it is. It's me just going that extra step and looking what's out there and listening to what he tells me and then going that way. So I do that on all my cases. Kelsey Schelling's case, is another one. And, the poor girl is in a reservoir, big reservoir in Colorado, and it's been there for years. So
Wow.
I did see this was a more recent case, right? Antonio Yeager,
Marie Yeager,
that she was stabbed to death in her bed, and their family, that no one had a clue as to who or had suspects, and she's like in her 80s or
86 years
It
old.
does sound bizarre.
Yeah, so
'Cause
Marie,
isn't stabbing usually very personal?
it is, and she was stabbed more than 20 times, which is usually a act of passion. But at 86, didn't have anybody in her life. What's really interesting about the Marie Yeager case is that her husband, who died 8 years prior, was married, and he was a Superior Court judge here in LA.
Oh.
And his first wife in 1965, who was an heiress, they went on a boating trip 3 days after their wedding. Guess who just fell over the boat?
Wow.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
And guess who was just under in the cabin room, and the radio didn't work.
Right.
So that one piqued my interest because of that. So then he retired the bench in 2001, and he opened up a new religion
Interesting.
and put his house into the religion. It's probably more for the tax write-off.
Right.
But it involved the financial planner, him, and an attorney.
So interesting.
So with Marie, she was a socialite, belonged to a country club, and in her particular case, there was no forced entry, and she was very particular about keeping the doors locked and the gates. She had the locks redone. So she was in her breakfast nook, and coffee and toast were there, so we know it happened in the morning. But the gate in the back was opened. There was a flood because somebody washed their hands afterward and left the water on. But she was stabbed 23, 26 times in her bedroom, which had French doors going off to the same court. So what's interesting about her is she did have money. The church is very interesting because when her husband died, he had put the house in the church. The house was worth about $1.8 million when he died 8 years ago. But she wanted to stay there, so the church made her pay $2.4 million for it. And the only two people in the church is a financial planner and the attorney.
Huh.
So now we go, well, let's
So-
trace the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's trace the money. So we're tracing the money, and I went to the house. What's ironic about this is that the people that live in the house, she is a producer of some of the very well-known horror films,
Oh.
the series, and they live in the house now. It's got very good energy.
Oh.
Marie
Yes.
was good, and they have kids, and she loves them. And her husband is an attorney, which Maria's husband was. And so that's kind of ironic in the whole situation.
Sure.
That was interesting. So the thing with that particular case is, unfortunately, as I was looking into the case, there was another socialite. That family owned some restaurants in LA here. and she was 83, stabbed to death in her penthouse apartment with security, 24/7 security.
Wow.
So how do you get in?
Yeah.
So the thing is, there's somebody that they both knew.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
And so, so I have a lot of leads, and the detective gave me some people of interest that they have an interest, and told me the story about the people they interviewed. Financial planner is ignoring me, and I'm not able to reach the attorney in Palm Springs. So, she, according to whatever will she had, everything went to the church.
Right.
Ah.
And those two guys are the
That's
church.
a motive.
Or the church, that's right. So, and then there's other people that were in her life. So, it's really talking to the detectives and oh, this is where we left off, and these are some people of interest. Will you please let me know your feelings? And so I track them down, and I'll go interview them. I'll go to their house. So I do that work so I can
When
come
you
back.
interview these people, do you get obviously you get psychic messages?
I do.
or-
Well, like you guys being intuitive, when somebody's lying to you. And when you see them, this person's going to lie to me, they're going to give me a story, that straight away. So I'm the type of person that I don't want the fluff, so I just go right into the answer. And if you're lying to me, I'm going to ask why you're lying to me.
Wow.
Because I don't have time to dick around.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm going to be very nice and treat you as a human with respect and you deserve. But when you start to lie to me, it's all over. And I'm going to just go right to where I need to go. And so, again, it's me compiling my report and going, here's what I think. This is what I know. Boom, 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 boom. So with her case, it's now that there's another person and, there's the gardener, there's the guy that does painting on the curb, there's the handyman. It's really trying to, there's got to be some connection there. I mean, I just don't know how you do this. But they didn't get any financial gain out of it. So is it just somebody that is upset because they're of wealth and status?
Right.
But I can tell you this. What I've been led to through the detective is that somebody of interest is an old assistant that she had who has all her passwords and financials and was ripping her off. So she fired her. And she has a son, this bookkeeper has a son that has a violent history. So was it a revenge?
Right.
Was it a revenge? So, it's just taking time and putting the pieces together. And as you guys know, being intuitive, the audience may not know, it doesn't come all at once.
No.
So it's bits and pieces here and there and there. So it takes me a while to investigate.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how many cases do you work on at the same time? Just like you have a sort of limit that is it
I
one
try
or
not to do
two?
more than four
More
at
than
a
four.
time. Because I have to do my other real world stuff. So I try to do about 4 at a time. Some cases I can get done in 20 minutes.
Right.
I had a case yesterday that was a mafia hit. That's my third mafia case in the last 8 months. That was in and out. It was back in New York. He went missing. Family doesn't want to tell you anything until you say, hey, tell me about the mafia and drugs.
They're like, how did you know?
That's exactly what they say. How'd you know that?
Game's up.
And so this particular case, he has a 4-year-old daughter. Mom and family didn't know he was involved in drugs or the mafia. And he was an informant, which they found out after his death. And so,
Oh, wow.
So the thing is, what they're looking for help is that we have video of him being thrown into a dumpster in New York, and then we have blood stains on the dumpster from New York in Pennsylvania, which is a transfer station for the trash in New York. So it's a matter of where did he go from there. Well, what people don't realize, and I was having this conversation earlier, the mafia is still very prevalent in the U.S.
That does not surprise me.
I am not surprised at all.
And-
And of several countries, not just ours.
Right. So the Sopranos with the trash business,
Yes.
Yes.
they're still there.
Yeah.
We are running out of time, so quickly, how can people reach you? What's
Sure.
the best way?
So you can reach me through my website, which is www.psychicmediumtroy. So it's psychicmediumtroy.com, or look me up on Facebook.
Great.
Hopefully we'll have you back again.
Thank
we'll talk
you.
Yeah, it's
more.
been
Thank you
nice.
so much. That was
Absolutely.
fascinating.
Don't
We
forget
hope
to
you enjoyed it.
subscribe,
Yes.
like, comment, join the family here, and thank you so much.
And thank you all to the new subscribers. And we're looking forward to our next show with Adela again. She's coming back with a different topic. And you all have a great week and have a great lunar eclipse. Still
if
enjoy
you're
it.
seeing us here on the YouTube, we are on podcast now, so you can catch us anywhere, anytime. Bye now.
Thank you
Take
guys.
care.
Namaste.
Namaste.